The idea of an alphabet itself came out of some obscure scratching on rocks, probably, or impressing images in clay in the Middle East, perhaps as far back as 3000 BC. However, by about 1500 BC, the Northern Semitic, or the Phoenicians in that group, had figured out that besides just marks indicating what we call the consonants, or sounded with letter sounds, ought to be put down on rock or wherever for reading purposes. The idea of reading, of saving what you said, was a relatively new idea, but now we know it's the basis of all civilization. The Phoenicians carried this idea of putting every sound on hide or rock to the Greeks, who said, by golly, this is a workable situation. And Periclean Greece began developing the arts, drama, philosophy, and putting it down in various forms on parchments, skins. We had no paper per se, but they had ways of impressing these scratched images, which slowly became formalized. The Phoenician Greek alphabet persisted for a period from about 1500 BC till it migrated to Rome about 500 BC by way of the Etruscan community. And it got changed a bit there. But the Greco-Roman alphabet was found to reflect on a one-to-one basis all of the sounds of those people. The number of characters ranged from 22 to 27 or 28. It persisted because nearly everybody in the Mediterranean basin slowly learned to read this odd bit of scratching that the Greeks had started after they had picked it up from the Phoenicians. At the same time now, there were a number of languages which were being written all through the Middle East, but without any vowels. No vowels, just the consonants, the A, E, I, O, and U that you and I know. These languages required a certain memory to add to the prints. The important idea about symbolizing ideas, numbers, and the like slowly came to be the undergirding of all civilization, whether it was commerce, whether it was art, whether it was philosophy, whether it was a play. It was a means of saving what you said or thought. We have made a number of such conventions later in mathematics, in pure numeration, of engineering, of chemistry. All of these have been standardized and are international idea carriers. Mathematics can be read in literally any language. The 10 digits that arose probably out of the Chinese civilization and by way of India and Arabia slowly came into the Mediterranean basin, those 10 digits. Until then, Romans and Greeks tried to turn some of the letters of their alphabet into numbers. It was all right, but you couldn't operate with them. You couldn't compute. You couldn't do anything of any consequence. So usually the commercial people hired astute Arabs and others who had learned the Arab, they called it, numeration for this purpose. And this set of 10 digits, of course, is internationalized completely. It's 100% across the world. And 10 means 10, but it may be said differently, but the figure 10 or 9 or 8 is as universal as anything that we have. Now, let's go back to our alphabet again. Slowly, the Romanization of Europe, by way of the church primarily, and some commerce, carried the Roman alphabet through a good part of Western Europe. It started a bit in Eastern Europe and Russia, but they never quite pulled it off because they had about 34, 35 sounds in Russia and the various cities. So sometime around the 8th century AD, a couple brothers, Cyril and Methodius, provided a variant form of the Greco-Roman alphabet called Cyrillic, after Cyril, of course. And that has become the alphabet utilized by the USSR, or it was the USSR, and most of the Eastern Europe countries, Bulgaria, Serbia, so forth. This is the second language. The Devanagari alphabet, which was the alphabet primarily of early formal Sanskrit, the Indian subcontinent's language, was developed sometime around the 2nd or 3rd century. It's a misty source, but it was contrived almost out of pure air. And in a little while, I'll show you some pictures of the Devanagari. This alphabet has about 55 characters, and though no one of the Indian languages use all of those letters, they all have a commonality. In other words, one language community, and there are perhaps 200 or 300 language communities in India, will use maybe 35 or 40 of them. Another will use 16 or 17, as low as I think it's 12. But others. But the same sound symbol convention exists throughout India. And the Gujarati alphabet, though it looks like terrible hen scratching to you or me, is quite a universal writing system for all of India. And variants of it have sprung into the Himalayas and into the area around Pakistan. However, Pakistan, being an Arab community or a Mohammedan community, has adopted slowly almost all of the Arab writing system, which is a variant of Hebrew. I take a little time to talk about this because it is the thing that caught my fancy rather late in life.